Okay, hello. Zenith of the Alpha was doing a video on this, okay? In particular, the front cover of the Book of the Law by Aleister Crowley, right? And in particular, he was looking at this set of Roman numerals here, this XCII, okay? 93 with the equal sign through to 418 here, okay? Now, he wanted a, I think it was some kind of challenge. He said something about a challenge. Can you explain why those two, why one equals the other? I don't know. I mean, I can kind of. I've got some interesting stuff on it. Let's put it that way. We also got at the top of here. We've got this CCXX is 220, and then down the bottom here with the DCLXVI, this is 666 down the bottom. Now, where am I going to go with this? As soon as I saw this 418 that he was talking about right here, let's enlarge. Let's go look at it a bit better. Okay. I was looking at this and I'm saying to myself, ooh, that's pretty interesting the way they've typed that in there, the way they printed that, because number one, they've got the 4 going low, they've got the 8 sticking up a bit. Okay, we've already got an angle on there. Okay, we've got this diagonal angle going, and this number 1 that's in the middle is an I. Is a letter I. And I know, yes, the letter I in Roman numerals is 1, but it also, we can get a number 9 from this. Okay, so straight away I was like, well, this is really interesting, right? And 93. Well, I'm going to talk about how this is going to relate to the number 93 in just a second. And I'm going to have to go to my Pluto chart, the chart of Lorraine, to show you this stuff. But, you know, with everything that's going on with this Pluto return thing, and all the stuff with 9/11, this is all, everything's tied together. And this 4-1, or the 1004 that is in the clock tower, this is a pretty interesting connection here, okay? Because, well, I'll go to it. We've just gone by April Fool's Day, and I believe April Fools may be named April Fools for or there may be a slightly different meaning to the idea of during April is going to be the fool. Okay, if you can see where I'm going with that, April is going to be the fool. Okay, so what we've got going on in April that is a big I symbolism. So this letter I gives us the I. Okay, the I is the I, you know, is that crossover point, okay? It's the mirror line, you know, and you have this idea of as above, so below, like the mirroring of patterns or structures in nature, and you go from the macro to the micro, yeah? But there's also this idea of the as above, so below being a reflection between the physical and the metaphysical as well. And so what we've got going on here, especially with the 4 being lower and the 8 being higher here, we've got this idea of the as above, so below, the reflection between two sides of reality. And we're going to have an event happen on 4/8 this year, during April Fools, we will have that symbolism going on, that changeover between physical going to metaphysical, yeah? So when that moon comes across, we can see that sort of, we can see the void, we can see into the other side of reality, if you like. I don't know, there's a changeover at that point between life to death, back to life, okay? And so that point is the Vesica Pisces, yeah? There's a formation of the Vesica Pisces at that point as well. Okay, without getting too bogged down with this, but the Vesica Pisces is the eye, okay? So we've got that eye symbolism with the 4/8 here. We've got eclipse kind of all over this thing, but this also relates back to Pluto, and the whole Pluto thing ties into the eclipse. This is why plutonium is referenced, I'm sure, in Back to the Future so heavily, in the, you know, the, oh, blimmin' hell. Oh, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but that's why plutonium is, I'm sure that's why plutonium is referenced in Back to the Future so heavily. It's because of this Pluto return thing that's going on right now. Anyway, I want to go to the chart of Lorraine. I'm going to show you how that is related to this, and how this whole thing that is going on right now ties into the 4-1, and how this all ties together. So, let's just go to the table, to the chart of Lorraine. Normally I have a total line in here. I've gotten rid of that out of the way to make it a little bit more easier to understand, but I do have this scribbled in purple here is something that's not normally in here, but it has to be in here for this decode. So I really ought to do a cleaner version of it, but I've never really got around to doing it. But we're going to need it because there's a number in here we need to look at. Okay, so normally this isn't in this table, but for this we're going to need it. So the first thing to note is there's something special. The reason why the reason why that looked interesting to me, that 418, is because a little while back I did a decode, looking at some numbers with Pluto, and obviously Pluto is 1.48 days difference between, an Earth year and a Pluto year in terms of coming back to, just a regular synodic orbit, right? We're 1.48 days, 1.48 days longer with Pluto, okay? I think it's 1.48 days longer anyway. Anyway, so 1, 4, and 8 are very important, as is 248 for the sidereal cycle as well, 248 years, okay? So we've got to bear that stuff in mind when we're doing this, right? I'll show you this decode, right? Because, as with the eclipse, there was a date reference, which was, the other big one was 8/21/17, wasn't it? That was our first eclipse. And then we had, last year, we had the, again with the 14 reference number, okay? We had the 10/14 date, and then we're going to have this 4/8 date this year, okay? Now, the center of this table, right, we can reduce both of these two sets of numbers that are at the center of this table. And if we reduce just the 18, we will take that down to a 9, and now we have 9/11. And similarly, we can reduce just the 11 down to a 2, and we can have 2/18. Okay, so this is important because 2/18 obviously is connected not only to that first solar eclipse, but also to the discovery of Pluto, right? So you see these numbers tying together, right? But we're going to leave this as 9/11, yeah, because this really is the start of our whole mess that's going on right now. This whole thing, this is the big number, is 9/11, right? If we go ahead and we add up these numbers here, 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 4 plus 7 plus 11, right? Our total here is 28, okay? So if we go back 28 days from 9/11, okay, that takes us back to 8/14, okay? The 14th of August, right? 8/14. So that's really interesting, right? We're dealing with Lucas numbers here, by the way, if you're not familiar with my channel. And we've also got Fibonacci up here, and we've also got a row that I call pi row, okay, which we'll come on to in a minute. So 28 days later from here, like the film, is 9/11, okay, from 8/14. Now, what's interesting about this is if we go ahead and we add up 18 all the way through to 322 here, we add all these up, this now totals 814, okay? So you can see that number is repeated, kind of, twice here. So, our 418, this is looking kind of interesting, all right? Now, what's fascinating about this is, let's get rid of that for a minute now. So we've got that 814, and there's several other little nice number jumps you can do like that in here. There's another one which will take you from 213, the beginning of this thing, and by adding up some of these numbers in here, you'll end up with 315, okay, 315 days. I think you just add up these through to here, and that will take you up to Christmas. So if you add all these up, you'll get 315, and that'll take you through to Christmas if you go from 213. So it's a really nice tie back to Christmas, again, with number jumps there, okay? So 213 is important, though, because when we're looking at Lucas numbers, 213, especially this year, is going to be special because it's actually going to, well, let me explain. 213, first of all, in a normal year, the total up to this point here, this is a lot to bear in mind, but the total, if we add all these numbers up all the way through, is 321, okay? What's interesting is 213 happens to be, if you go to February the 13th, in a normal year, it's the 44th day of the year, and there's 321 days left in the year. So what's fascinating is this tie back from the beginning, and our end cycle stuff, end of a cycle is either 10 or it could be 12 as well, depending on the context of what we're looking at, okay? But, so anyway, in a normal year, we've got this reference with the start of this is tying back to, the 13th of February is tying back to, in a normal year, November the 17th, okay? Well, what's fascinating about November the 17th is, I just explained, those Pluto connections, right? And in fact, again, if you add up all of these numbers through to here, right? If you add all of them up now, you are going to get to 842, okay? And if you read that number backwards, that gives you the orbital, sidereal orbital period in years for Pluto. So this is fascinating stuff. Where was I going with that? But in a normal year, the 17th of November is our, what was I? The 17th of November, how do I explain this? I did an adjustment, right, for the synodic years, right, for synodic orbit that will come back into balance with our calendar. And that period actually is 90,140 days, okay, off the top of my head, okay? That's the number 14 there again. 90,140 days. Whereas, if we look at the normal cycle, it's 90,560 days, I think. And there's a difference there of 420 days. And when you split that difference in half, and you go from, the start cycle, which is, we're going from 7-4, okay, 17, and again, those numbers are right here, 1776, that this period here, this first number, okay, the synodically adjusted orbit, takes you to the Queen's birthday, okay, takes you to the 21st of April. This next one, of course, takes you to Donald Trump's birthday. Now, this is the Queen's birthday 2023, this is Donald Trump's birthday 2024. The difference between those two dates, of course, is 420 days. Now, if you half that, the midpoint between those two things is the 17th of November, okay, which we can pick out the middle of here, you know, the 17th of November. Now, what is also fascinating is that in a normal year, the 322nd day of the year is normally 11/18, the 18th of November. Okay, so we have these two dates tying in. In fact, I'm going to pull it around from there. So those two midpoints here are tying together with the midpoint of this Pluto cycle, if Pluto is even real. It's tying together with the midpoint of Pluto, right? And so this is why I call this, you know, why I've started to refer to as my, when I put this, when I have the clock tower in this table, I know this is getting messy, I refer to it as the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, because Mickey Mouse's birthday is on the 18th of November, and the midpoint for Pluto is the 17th, the balance point. And, you know, if you look at how Christmas is determined, it's a midpoint between the sun and the moon, okay? That's why Christmas has been placed where it's been placed. So this is like Pluto Christmas right here, 17th of November. It's just one way of looking at it, I guess. Okay, so anyway, let's get rid of all that stuff. Anyway, can you see how all this stuff's tying together, right? So let's get on to the point, and let's look at, I'll tell you what's interesting as well this year, is that the 17th and the 18th are kind of flipping because of the leap year, so we're getting some tie-ins between all three of those dates. And what we have to remember is that right in the middle of this thing is this 11/18. This is super duper important, okay? Let's see if we can tie in now the 93 back in with all this stuff, right? So the first thing I want to say is that if we look here, we can see, this is the only place that I've got in here where I can pick out just the numerology of 9 and 3. Okay, we've got 309. Now, if we do a cross-reference, this 309 is in the 4th row, and it's in the 11th column. So it's a 411. Okay, I use this chart a bit like a times table chart. So we know that 411 is referencing, is equaling 309. Or we could just read that backwards as 93 if we get rid of that 0. Okay, just use the numerology. So 411 is equaling this. Okay, now if we do a second cross-reference, okay, what we can look at is we can see that 411 actually occurs in the chart as well. And 411 in the chart now is a cross-reference with 12 and 3. So with 12 and 3, we can write it either like this, 1, 2, 3. I think Alpha mentioned Ozzy Osbourne with the song, Mr. Crowley, and also Ozzy's birthday is, I think the 3rd of, it's got that numerology, yeah, 3rd of December. So this is kind of interesting. It's tying back now, and obviously 1, 2, 3 again. I mean, we're tying back to the end of this thing as well, the end of the cycle here. Okay, or could also be the beginning of the cycle, because we could also read this 3 as 312, and again we can read that either way. So we could read this as a 213, and this is also the beginning of this thing right here, the beginning of the cycle. And if you remember when we did that little number thing, the beginning of the cycle here read backwards. If we read this number backwards now, it's 418. The same as if we read this number backwards, we're getting to this number here. Okay, the 213. Kind of interesting that this 411 is tying in with this. And now remember, I said, you know, we've got the 48, we've got this 4, and then the 8 up here. We've got this kind of eye symbolism connecting the two. We could draw a little eye in here, okay, for the eclipse going on. Now, what's interesting is the eclipse is going to be taking place, roughly speaking, somewhere between 4-1 and 4-11. And what's interesting about that is we've got a 10-day period here. Yeah, with X marks the spot, the 10, the completion, and the 10 that is going on with the crossing of the skull and bones. The skull and bones. Yeah, the skull is the moon, and the cross bones is the cross that it's putting on the land. Okay. So we've got this 10-day period, okay? And chi also, if you looked at this, this is kind of interesting as well. We'd have to go back to the, let me just show you this as well. I thought this was interesting. This is like X, and then if you were to just put a line here, right, you could have the word chi as well, which is X again. I thought that was kind of, so XX, I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting as well, but anyway, get sidetracked. So this 411 through, okay, we have the 1, we've got this, the I symbolism, the I is the Vesica Pisces, right, isn't it? Yeah, and this is what we've got going on. That's not a very good picture. Let me draw that a little bit better. We've got this, let's get rid of this middle stuff now and I'll show you. So that 10, which is the I symbolism, yeah, this is the Vesica Pisces. This is the period that we're in right now. We're in the eye. We're in the eye of the storm. 10 days now, maybe. I don't know. But what's fascinating is if we add up from 14, yeah, from 1-4, so from the 1st of April through to 4/11, we're going to get a figure of 1053. Okay, now the 153 fish is a reference to the Vesica Pisces, which is formed when two circles come together, as in at the beginning and the end of the eclipse. Okay, I don't know what else to say about it. You know, this number between these two is, there's 10 days going on here. Okay, between the 1st and the 11th, the CRM 114. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. 153. Yeah, we have that. We have the connection now. This is like a cross reference. This 39 is a cross reference. How else can I cross reference this? Let me show you something else with a cross reference. Because 3, if we look at 3, 9, let's do the 3, 9 cross reference now. If we look at 3 and 9, it comes down, we get to 97. Big deal. So what about 97? Well, let's look at the chart for 97. And I'll tell you right now, these are our important numbers right here. And let me explain. There's only actually 3 sets. There's only really 3, even though I've got this 4 row in here and this number 5 row in here, this 4 row in purple and the 5 row. At the root of these two sequences is either Fibonacci, Lucas, or pi. There's only 3 different sequences when you take it back down to the root. Lambda showed us that sequence, taking back the where 9/11 happens in Fibonacci is the start of that sequence back through 24 digits, 24 numbers is the full sequence, and it starts again. Fibonacci starts 9 and then goes to 11, 1, 1, and that's the start of the sequence again. Okay. There's only 3 different sets of sequences that I know of. So if you go from 1 through to 10, and do, I have to go back to and show you this other chart really to explain it. But I don't really want to spend a whole bunch of time explaining. So there's only three different sequences, which is like the Holy Trinity, right? So what we're looking at is we're looking at the metaphysical and the physical, as above, so below, the reflected nature of these two things, yeah? And if we total those up, well, of course, the totals are right here for those individually. Now, if we add those up, those 3 numbers come to 79, okay, totaled. So our total right here in the 7 column is 79, which is essentially all of these combined, which I just thought was pretty interesting with this 9-7 right here, okay? Very, very interesting. One more thing I will say is that we have the 4-8 referenced, and then the eye of the storm, the central point, the eye is the central point. We have the number 9, yeah? That equates to the number 9, right? We have, so if we change that I to the number 9, we have 9-8, the death of the Queen. The Queen represents the Matrix, yeah? That's what the Queen represents. And this is why I go on about Madonna, because she's got the same symbolism as Queen Elizabeth II, you know, and an awful lot more, you know, female figureheads, okay? So this represents the death of the Matrix, and what we also have reflected here is another number, which is 49. This is the number that I've been going on about for the Hoover Dam, recently, at least. 49, okay? This, if we go to the other side of the year, last year, this number, 49, is encoded 2 times in the dollar bill, at least. And one was with the Labor Day fold last year, came out at Labor Day, which I think is significant that it happened to be Labor Day last year. Otherwise, it just comes out on the 4th of September. So we have that 49 reference to Labour, to giving birth, to being reborn. And there's also you can do a reverse. So let me explain this. In the dollar bill, we have a 155-day jump, which is fascinating because that 155-day jump, you can go from 9/11, right, which is noted on one side of the bill, and you can actually get to 213, right? With that jump, with that 155-day jump, right? If you go the opposite way in the calendar year, it's going to take you to 49. Okay, if I go back from 9/11 this year, 155 days backwards, it will take me to 49. Okay, so you see, was it 49 or 48? I think it's 49. I'm pretty sure it's 49. Takes you to. Okay, so it's encoded in the dollar bill. And what's fascinating is that 220 that was at the start of that whole thing, at the top of the thing there, the book of the law. That 220 reference on the top of the dollar bill. There's two bunny ears, one on one side, one set of ears on one side, and one set on the other side. Yeah. Okay, so 220 is pretty interesting, to say the least. What else to say about it? I don't know. 4-9. We've got 4-8 in here, and we've got also the Queen's. There's a ton of stuff, in here. Another thing to note with 4-9 as well, while I've got the purple in here, 4-9 in here is 118, an abbreviation of this. So this is super fascinating the way everything ties back in on itself. Anyway, we'll leave it there for that part of the decode. I don't think there was really anything else I wanted to. Oh, the 666. Let me show you something on it. 666 is not. I haven't found that anywhere in any of my tables. The closest we can get in here is, check this out, 665. We're one short here. Now let's look at the. This is just mental. Let's look at the cross-reference for that, which is 3 and the number 13. Easter this year was on 3/1 of March. Okay, those numbers. Okay, was Easter. Okay, 665. We've moved on into. We're in 666 now. If we add another day on, we're into the. This is now the. You see how I'm doing that? We'll add another day on. We're now at 4/1. Okay, we're in the mark right now. We're in the mark. X marks the spot. The mark. We're in the mark. The 10-day period. Of maybe some major events, and I would definitely be. I mean, it might not happen till 4/8 actually. Madonna's quite heavy for 4/8 and for 4/4. So I don't know. It might not happen till the day or just the day before. But if Madonna were to croak, I'd be thinking this could be a major ritual that's going to happen. This actually could be something really big. Then again, it might just be a complete washout. Excuse the pun when we're dealing with the Hoover down there. But anyway, was there anything else I wanted to show you in here? Dear oh dear, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Let me go to back to this. I wanted to show you one other thing. Let me go to. Because that's in because this is in Latin here. I'm like, well, why can't we put these letters in? I just put the numbers in the Gematrinator, and I thought we'll just look at the just what we've got basically. So it's actually pretty interesting because, like, we've got like with this number, we've obviously got 54, 54, the CXX, and an 18 and an 18. Which again, remember, 18 is that central physical midpoint, okay, in the table. 54 again, that's just half of 108, okay. So this is kind of nice. And the 66. Well, I explained the six. Did I explain Route 66 several times now? If we look at the distance of Route 66, which goes from Chicago, the X, through to Santa Monica, the moon, that 66 is 2,448 miles long. Yeah, Route 66, Philip 66, with Philip also dying on 4/9, is 2024, 4/8. Okay, again, we've got another 54 here with the 93 number now. Okay, we've got 36, double 36s. Again, always think of Diana dying at the age of 36, the death of the moon, okay, the moon goddess. And also, we've got the 81, the 18 again, referenced in here, with 33, 330 in the Latin. Again, the 33, death and resurrection. Then we've got the 666 number in here, which comes out at 74, which is, again, 74 is super important because 74 is a thing at the start of this cycle and maybe towards the end of it, because, of course, 4/7 is right before 4/8. The day of the eclipse. And, when we're counting the Pluto thing, 4/7, 1776, oh my goodness. So it's the beginning and the end again. This is why it's becoming more impossible for me to pick out certain, when something's going to happen, because there's so much tie back, it's difficult to actually pick an actual date, I guess. 29, this is super important. The number 29 is the perfect union of 11 and 18. It's both the individual reductions and if you add them together, okay? 88, does that need any more explanation? That is the total for the physical column there in the table. 34, oh my goodness, I could tell you something about 34 as well. When adjusted, 43 or 34 is a central number balance point. In the actual row, let me just go to it because I can't explain this without going to it, and then I can explain a couple of other things. Let me show you with this one. Okay, what I've got in here, so this is my table, and this is when I was saying there's only 3 different cycles, I've got them labelled down the side of here. Yeah, Fibonacci, Lucas, right, or pi, right? Those are the 3 cycles, and they just repeat, even though I can start, this is really difficult for new people, even though I can start a cycle with the number 4, add 1, and then I go to 5, so forth and so on. This, even though this is starting with a different set of numbers to this, for instance, it's the same cycle. Like, you can pick out the start of that cycle right here. It's the same. Okay, it's the same cycle, just starting at a different point. So what I'm saying is, there's only 3 actual different cycles when you look at all these numbers through. If you start cycles 1 through to 10, essentially, which is 1 to 9. Everything's based around the number 9 with this stuff. Okay, which is also fascinating. Where was I going with this? Anyway, what I've got down here is the actual numbers of pi. Okay, because this pi row in the middle, okay, which starts 314 here, is not actual pi. It's a Fibonacci sequence that starts with the number 3. You add 1, and you generate your sequence through. Okay, the actual numbers of pi are just, they're different. They're just completely random, so to speak. Now, what's interesting about that, I put it in here, and there's some matchups with Fibonacci. This is a Fibonacci sequence, but this is the Fibonacci that starts 911. And the matchups are, right here, at the center of this cycle with 911, we've got the Queen's Death. And if we look at actual pi numbers, the first 24 digits put into the table here, what matches up is the Queen's Death date. Wow, that matches up. That's interesting. Now, when you adjust, what's also fascinating is that you can adjust pi to start in the middle of this thing, yeah, which makes sense. Start of a cycle, just like a clock starts at the top, in the middle. We can start this thing here. Now, what happens when you do that is you have 2 numbers match up here as well. 4-8 and 4-8 match up. Now, what's fascinating is, about this matchup, is that, what's fascinating is, what's in the center of this thing is 4 and 3, yeah? The 3-day resurrection of Jesus and the 4-day resurrection of Lazarus. Okay, 43, 34, super duper important, yeah? See how that references back to central balance, yeah? And again, 4-4, this is why I think we might see some kind of, maybe it'll be Madonna on 4-4. I'm actually thinking, because what's fascinating about the number 4-4 while I'm here is, if you go to the other side of the year, I'm pretty sure it goes to, don't quote me on this, but I think it goes to the 4th of, I want to say it goes to the 4th of October. The number that's on the clock tower, which is also the 4-1 that we've just started in on right now, okay? So this is really fascinating because the clock stops at this point. Like I just said, we're in the eye right now, where time doesn't exist. Yeah, the clock stopped 10 days now. Okay, so 4-4. Maybe we'll see some kind of a ritual on the 4th with a clock tower. Maybe Big Ben or something. Maybe the clock will stop with Big Ben, or maybe, I don't know, some kind of reference to a clock stopping. Maybe to echo that 4-4 and the clock in Back to the Future. Who knows? I liked Billy Idol. Some kind of reference with Billy Idol with 4-4, or maybe Madonna will croak on 4-4. She kind of ties in much nicer with the 26 here. And again, I was just talking about her on the 92nd day, which was the 14th, the 1st, which was yesterday, actually 2 days ago now. And so, 26, the flip round, you flip that round, it's 92. So again, I'm kind of wondering if she's going to actually croak on the, I'm talking like it's going to happen, but, 8-4 would probably be a pretty good reference for that to happen, and then the following day would be the Hoover Dam in the midnight hour, 4-9. Anyway, you can see how that number jump is really fascinating. And while I'm on the topic of Madonna, if we go this number jump right here, 23,979 days from Madonna's birthday, that's going to take us to 4-9. Okay, pretty mental. And I have a personal reference that takes me from that from Madonna's birthday to 4-8 as well. So I don't know. It's absolutely crazy. I'm going to leave it there because I'm just wiffly waffling. I wanted to show you that 34 reference. I don't even know what I was even talking about now. But yeah, you can see what is at the center of this table. Okay, and we're talking about the end of the matrix. Okay. And obviously I have another chart like this that is flipped around, let me show you that very, very quickly, because there may be some new people here that are trying to follow along with this. And this is just the same chart, except we're starting all those numbers, rather than starting right on this side, we're starting them in the middle, just like a clock again, you know. And so you see the numbers that are at the center of this thing. Now, there's a channel called We Seek, We Find, and he's got a ton of stuff on the 19th of May. Okay, so that's a date that's in there. Of course, you can see the Back to the Future 1955 at the center of this thing. Anyway, I wanted to just show you the totals. If you add up all these numbers, forget the pi number here, forget the green, but if you add up the sequence numbers that are in here, the blue and the red, this is the total. The number for the Vesica Pisces, yeah? Albeit knock the zero out of the way. 153 or 1053 is the total here. Fascinating stuff. I'm going to leave it there. That's probably like way too long of a video. Put this in double speed. Too late for me to tell you now, but maybe I'll just put it in double speed so it goes a little bit quicker. Alright, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.